Hey, this is Adam. Thank you for your interest in black eye cameras. Let us tell you why we built this thing. It's really fascinating because we've watched so much TV, so many movies. Subconsciously, we have a very surprisingly deep understanding of how cameras move, how they frame things, the weight, that little acceleration and deceleration, the lag between the camera operator and the subject moving around. We know when this feels right. And the reason we built black eye is because we believe in CG, the camera should have a relationship with the subject. And when you get this mojo right, things feel good. And when the cameras are good in a project, it elevates the quality of everything. Black eye is a very powerful camera system for Unreal Engine that makes virtual cinematography feel more like real cinematography. You can keyframe the camera's position like here, but dynamically do the composition. Or you can have setups, and we've been here before. Hey, let's do this track shot of something flying over top. And then the director says, you know what? Let's make it go a little bit faster. So all I'm doing here is changing 2 keyframes of where I want this composed on the screen. It wants to start on the right side of the screen and end on the left side of the screen. So the camera's doing all the math. You're directing the composition. Here, let's drop the ship down lower. The camera still figures it out. And you've probably had this, your director or somebody saying, hey, let's just change this. Make this thing go closer to the camera. You can see the cameras are always updating. They're figuring the shot out. Maybe you're doing a cutscene and you get some new animations. Well, the cameras will figure it out. Or you can set up the composition that you like and move the camera body around, and the cameras will still figure it out. You can set up some crazy shot and then bake it down and adjust the keyframes like you would normally do. We're not disrupting your workflow, we're supercharging it. And this is for games, cinematics, cutscenes, esports, really anywhere on Unreal that you have a camera. So let's get going. Installing black eye. Go to the Fab tab inside UE and type black eye cameras. And there we are. So when you click on it, buy it. Mine says view and launcher because I've already bought it. We built it. But once you buy it, it'll show up in here. And then you say where you'd like to install it, which project, and then boom, it's in the project. Once your project's open, go to Edit, Plugins, click on black eye, and you're gonna have to turn it on. It'll make you reboot. And just note here, we got support, which is our Discord, and the documentation. Read the documentation for real. Debug and CVARs. So you can go to the little eyeball and click on black eye. It'll show all of our stuff. And then in the CVAR area, just type black eye or black and you can see our stuff. So if you want it off, type 0. There, I just turned the guides off. And this will be the master. So under the eyeball, it'll show everything or nothing, whatever you've got configured. And you could sub-configure things in here like guides or camera names or frustums, all sorts of stuff. Camera names are pretty wild. I mean, if you got a lot of cameras in the scene, this could be a bit of a mess, or it can really help you debug. Before 5.6, it's under this little show button top left. And right here is where it all started. Many years ago, we thought, why couldn't we just have a camera that dynamically composed on moving subjects so we don't have to keyframe all this? And that's where we got this idea. So let's make one of those simple but very powerful cameras. So go to the top, click black eye, create, LookAt camera. You can see this is a zombie camera. It's not doing anything yet. It's just in the world, not paying any attention to people walking by. So let's click LookAt. Right now, we're just going to do one subject, hit the eyedropper, pick a character. And that's it. I mean, that's not it. There's more, but that's it to make a camera start to dynamically compose a moving subject. You can see this shot's not great for a few reasons. I'm going to drag it onto the timeline. So when we click it and we turn it on, we can see our guides. So because we just click the character, we're targeting the whole actor bounds. And for some things that's great. Sometimes it's problematic. You can see that outside shape changes. So we're going to put on some dynamic FOV. And what's cool about this is it lets the camera automatically zoom to keep that on frame. So as you notice, as it gets closer, the camera goes wider. And as the character walks further away, the cameras become more telephoto. And there's damping controls on here. Look at this, it's walking closer. Or just adjust the damping. So it was pumping a little bit when it was walking. You can see the zoom just slightly pumping. So we've added some more damping. The good news is it's a bit more viscous. The side effect is the camera's going to be a little slower to zoom. So all throughout Black Eye, damping controls are very powerful. This is a pro tip. Let's go to multiple targets. On subject 2, we're going to collect the character again. But watch this. Subject 1 is going to look at the head. And subject 2, we're going to pick the pelvis. Now that white box is going around both targets, the head and the pelvis. And you can change the bounding radius because we're targeting a bone. A bone's just a point. This is a cubic volume in units. We can make those different. You can make those different sizes. And you've got a weight, so you can look at just the head or both. Now the head's coming off the screen, and the reason why is these very powerful damping controls. The camera's got quite a bit of damping on that rotation. So if we scroll down, and you can do it per axis too. So you can have more damping up and down, left and right, and vice versa. So we just increase that damping a little bit. Now the camera is more aggressively tracking the subject. This is, you want to be all over this if you're, planes are flying around or cars or things that are moving quickly. I'm going to just change this weight now to go back to the head and the pelvis and adjust the size a little bit. And then we're going to adjust where it is on the screen. So this is Black Eye looking through the lens. This is very powerful in that you're composing based on where things are in the screen. So now we said that we want the character to be a little bit on the right, and we're tracking the head and the pelvis. And no matter what that character does, you're going to get that shot. Let's back the FOV damping off a little bit so the camera's zooming a little better. See how it zooms out a bit better here? And now it's going to zoom in a little bit more. A little more aggressively, keeping the zooming appropriate to have the subject be the right size on the screen. Watch this. We're going to make the character twice the size. But look at that. We still get the shot. We've told this camera we want a head and a pelvis to be this big on screen. And the camera's figuring it out. What's so powerful about this is think of a cinematic sequence for a video game. You've got different characters. You don't have to make different cutscenes. You can make one cutscene and you tell the cameras the shots that you want, and the cameras will get that shot. Just grab the camera, move it around, change the size of the character. Black Eye cameras, you tell them the shot that you want, and they'll get that shot even in variable conditions. We know this takes a little bit to understand, a little bit to wrap your head around, because it's like cameras you can directly keyframe them. You can hybrid keyframe them. We'll show you that in a sec. Or you fully procedural control them. It's a little bit weird, but once you start working this way, you realize it's so much faster. You can iterate so quickly. You can experiment. You can try out new things. It's a complete game changer. The Black Eye LookAt controls composition, camera rotation. It's a fundamental core bedrock feature of Black Eye, and you're going to use it all the time. This is such an unassuming feature, but it actually brings an incredible amount of realism, because in real life, cameras don't rotate around their sensor. So what the plate and pedestal lets you do is it lets you create the pivot point to mimic real life pivot points, like in Steadicams and fluid heads. It lets you adjust the camera up and down and forward and back. And that's where the camera will rotate from. And it turns out, we've watched a lot of it. Like, look at this. No cameras ever rotates in real life around the middle of the sensor. No camera does that. So plate and pedestal lets you adjust the camera offset to mimic real life rigs. Like look at where that's pivoting around. It's, you know, lower and further back. And we've seen so many movies like these steady cams, that pivot point, it's so low, but like, look what the motion looks like this. We've seen this. This is what movies look like. So we need to emulate this. It's very important. So here I'm putting the camera, I'm going too far. This is too far, but look at this. It's way up top and it's pivoting around that pivot point that's below the camera. And it's subtle, but the way that the camera moves now, it's going to swing. Look when I go up and down, see how it's, that motion, it feels right. When it gets lower, the camera tips back. This isn't something that shouts out about itself, but what it does is it gives you motion that feels like all the motion that we've seen before in real life. These little things add up to make your project feel more authentic. Look at these guys. This is like Black Eye, the hardware, Segway, Steadicam version. We can do all this stuff without the gear. Follow. Let's do it for characters. So where LookAt handles the rotations, follow handles translation. So let's click the follow and then let's click a subject. Boom, we're following that subject. Now you see the camera pops. We just assumed 300 units off to the side. Of course you can adjust that. And if we hit play, you can see the camera's following, but see it's pumping. It's not great. And we're going to show you why. So there's no damping. It's all set to 0. This is positional damping. So if you crank this up, you can see the camera. It's actually going to fall behind a little bit because it's like traveling through some viscous honey, trying to keep up the subject. Look at this. If I go back and forth, you can see the camera. Yeah, if I go back and forth, you can see, look at that. The camera's going wiggle, wiggle. That's the damping working. So that's better. So you can grab the camera and move it forward and just, you know, offset for that damping amount. You can move it anywhere. It's part of the magic. And those transforms will back propagate into the follow offset. So there you go. You got a side shot. Still not perfect. Fair bit of damping there. You can see, and we'll just tweak it, get an angle that we like. You can even make it a front shot. And because the damping is per axis, you can say decouple yourself more fully from an up and down motion or from a forward and back, however you wish to configure that. Okay, let's get this camera. We'll select it on the sequencer so we can see all the guides. It's off to the right of the screen. Let's adjust it into the middle. This is using the LookAt composition screen guides. Okay. So it's a little better. There's still a jiggle to it. And you can see the screen. There's a bit of pumping to the FOV. We're going to just tune the damping up a little bit more, increase it on all channels, but forward and back. Okay. So, but here's how to properly fix it. Often the characters, so it's good to track the root. The other one is you can set the LookAt to have this ignore zone. So see how the subject has got this dead zone? It's moving around inside there. So it's the camera's going to disregard that motion in the dead zone. So from following the camera's route to putting that dead zone in, we got a great shot. That's much better. Nice, smooth, dynamic tracking follow shot. Of course, you can just grab the camera and move it around, and it'll do the same from wherever you leave it. There's another feature in here. It's called the dwell radius, the follow dwell radius. And that's, you create a sphere around the camera and the camera won't move. It'll disregard subject motion of that same size. So you can see when it was big, the camera didn't follow, and when it's small, it will. There's a ton of damping on this camera, of course. Between the damping and the dwell radius, you can decouple the camera from character motion and get some really nice, buttery track shots. Okay, let's do the next flavor on vehicles. Here we've got this super cool, big, medium, small. Thank you so much for these environments. They're beautiful. So we're dropping a new camera in. It's going to be a follow camera, of course. And just like with the character, just click the car. Dink, we go off 300 units to one side. We've got a really rigid camera constrained to the car. Not a lot of life yet, but you can just grab the camera, move the shot. Now we're going to set, here's the offset. You can punch the numbers in manually too, of course. Okay, and then we're going to make it look at the car too. So click look at, click the car. You can see the blue box. Now we're looking at the car. And of course, because we're now looking at the entire car, we can do some lens stuff. So we'll just do dynamic FOV. You might think I love dynamic FOV on every shot. I don't. It can be too much, but sometimes it can also be really fast just to try out ideas. Look at this Zolly. Where's Hitchcock? Automatic Zolly, no rigs. Okay, side shot, tracking the car. Pretty basic. Let's bring it in a sequencer. Let's look at the debugs. So we're following the car. It's locked to the side. Really basic. For some cases, this might be fine if the car's moving smoothly, but if the car is changing speed, a lot of the way you can tell how vehicles are moving is the relationship between the vehicle and the camera. So let's put a little damping in. Ooh, look at that. So we got a value of 1. So we get a value of 1 on our location damping. The car's going to get ahead slightly. And you can see that the camera's lagging behind a little bit. It's like, think of the damping as like foam, like the camera's like squishing into the foam. But watch this, as the car slows down, the camera goes back to its side position. Look at the weight of that. So that's tons of damping, but you can see the camera's still looking at the car, just positionally should be at the end of that red dot, the red ray, but the damping is the delta between where the camera should be and where it actually is. So let's set these numbers to be a little more. Okay. So we got a nice bit of damping here. And get the camera a little bit closer. And yeah, just tweak the shot. Brr, Zolly. I'm going to tune the look at. We'll just get the lens limit. See, we stopped at 100 degrees. This is crazy wide, but just want to show you that the lens limits, you can set min and max ranges for the dynamic FOV, which is handy just so you don't get into goofy lens territory on either end. Look at that. Just add a little extra off. You want to spin the camera around. So this is a camera. It's going to follow the car, be on its side. Very basic, simple follow shot. So hybrid modes are very cool because what they do is they let you lean into the procedural for some things, procedural camera behaviors, but then they'll let you keyframe and craft some other things. So I just grabbed this camera and set this sort of over the shoulder shot up. But look at this. We're going to now look at that other ballerina. So the camera's following the walker, but looking at the ballerina. And you can set these up in any combination, like follow this, look at that, and switch. And what I'm doing here now is I've got the camera on sequencer. We're just keyframe some follow offset. So I want to say start with it here. Let's just keyframe that. And then go to the somewhere else. Here. You can see when we get here, we lost the composition of the character because the camera's now behind. So we can adjust the relationship between what the camera and what it's following here through keyframes on follow offset. Let's dump a key here. And then the camera is still going to follow, but we're keyframing the relationship between the two. And you can do that on anything. Here we're going to do it on an orbit. So look at this follow camera, dynamically moving with the ballerina, also dynamically composing. Really basic shot. Just took a second to set up. Let's adjust the viewport size. Get some better framing. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to keyframe the camera doing a rotation. So doing an orbit, but the orbit's not going to be fixed in the world. It's going to be an orbit around the character with the damping. So let's just check this camera one more time. Look at that nice weight. And just at any time, you can just grab a black eye camera and move it, put it somewhere else, still get all that relationship, all that damping, all that weight. Okay, so let's select follow. Let's keyframe, let's make a channel for extra yaw. So you'll notice sometimes that this can be a little crazy. If you see that little flip out that happened, if you go too quickly, look at follow point. It reorganizes the order of operations. So if you're noticing you're getting some weird flips, turn that on. Okay, let's put a keyframe at this angle. And then we'll scrub forward in time. Let's pump some extra yaw in there. Let's do enough to spin all the way around. There's quite a bit of damping on here, so you can see that the camera didn't follow the full radius because it's just chasing you quickly updating it. But now with that keyframe slowly adding the extra yaw, we've got this orbit. You could grab the camera, grab the character and just move it somewhere else and the shot will still work. So I don't really like how we started flat. Let's have it start and end, be a little bit more of a linear rotation. That's just adjusting the sequence curves on the extra yaw. Here we go. Could even put a bit more damping on that. I'm feeling a bit too much of the character motion through the screen, but look how fast we get that orbit going. And the camera's still moving out of the way. If you made a rig for this and animated the camera around a circle and mounted that to the character, it would take longer and it would look more robotic. This feels more like a person on a Steadicam walking around the character. And that's a fast way to create orbit shots around things, especially if you don't know where the things are going to be. And because we just keyframe the extra yaw, you can move the camera up or down and it's still going to work. So we just grabbed the camera here, pulled it down a little bit. The extra yaw is still piping into that where the camera is, but you can move it up and down. Multiple subjects. Let's get a camera to track 2 people. Common scenario. So we got this camera in the scene. We're going to select the subject mode to be multiple subjects. And then let's click subject 1 to be the left and click subject 2 to be the right. You can see now, just grab the camera, move it around. The camera is tracking those 2 people. You can see the blue box. It's going around their bounding box effectively. And these 2 guys have a little disagreement of sorts and they get closer and further back. Let's move this camera to just a better shot. Okay, and then to really show it off, we'll do some automatic FOV because these guys get close to each other and they get further apart. So we'll show how this works on all the systems. Okay, let's get onto sequencer and we can see what's going on. So the camera's framing. So the white box is going around the 2 blue boxes. The white box is the product of everything. And we're following the subject on the left, subject on the right. The camera's not doing a lot because they're not really moving too much. But watch. We throw, the camera moves back. Look at that. Let's see how it's zoomed up close. And it's going to rotate and zoom to keep them both that size on the screen. Pretty cool. So you can change these animations or you just get this camera that knows how you want to do the shot. And you can move it around and put it somewhere else and do the same thing. It's going to figure out what zoom is required to keep those two characters that size on screen. So let's mix it a bit. Let's do some, and I love hybrid mode so much. They're great. Let's do some procedural composition with a LookAt, but let's keyframe some camera movement. So I made a standard transform track, keyframe the camera on the right side, and then at the end, have the camera move to the left. So you can see now that the camera's doing this like pan, like, you know, this side dolly thing. The camera's looking at the subjects, but we've keyframed its movement, and it'll still figure out the shot. There wasn't a ton of movement. Let's juice it a little bit more. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to even make it a bit more sophisticated with multiple subjects. We're going to add 2 more, so a total of 4. So on subject 3, we're going to click the left character again. And on subject 4, click the right. So 1, 2 is on the left and 3, 4 is on the right. And we're going to target the head and the pelvis. This is a really useful trick. We'll do this for both. Type in head and pelvis, and you can see nothing's changed because we still have the use component bounds turned on, which means we're looking at the whole subject. But as soon as we turn those off, blink, blink, we've now got a cube over the head, a cube over the other person's head, and then pelvis, pelvis. And what the camera's going to do now is it's going to compose on their heads and their pelvises. And this allows you to get really accurate mid shots, cowboy shots, any sub portion of the character, or you can put the feet in and make sure you get the feet always perfectly framed. I'm going to adjust the composition here just a little bit. You can see the camera's tracking the pelvises and the heads. We're still doing that side motion. So this is a more accurate, tighter shot. And you could change the size of these characters and the camera's still going to figure that out. We pull back. The reason he came off the screen a little bit is because we've got some damping on the composer. You can adjust that. But what I'm going to do here is show you the weights. So look at this. We're going to take the pelvises out of the equation. You can keyframe these weights. Now we're just doing the heads. So you could have a character all rigged up and switch the bones around and target different areas of the character. You can see here, I like this shot. I just want it a bit higher. So it's the same everything, just get this shot a little bit higher. We still have the keyframes and the transforms from the left to the right. Let's just tune the composition to get the background in a cool. I like that little yellow band there. Okay, cool. So there we go. We're tracking their heads. Camera's moving to the side. It's got pretty good weight. Not bad for whatever this was, 2 minutes. And when it's this easy to set up a shot and try out ideas, those what ifs, they're not scary anymore. They're like, yeah, what if? Let's try this idea out. Let's get a little more, let's do more movement. So let's go right to the side. Let's like end in and over the shoulder. So we'll add a keyframe for that. So look at this, way more motion. Okay. Hit play. We're swinging around a little faster. Nice. So you can see now these combinations of keyframes, weights, positions. You can create shots very quickly and try out ideas, experiment. Multiple subjects and keyframing weights. This is a powerful config for more complicated shots. Big ups to big, medium, small for these environments. Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to just make a camera, drop a black eye camera in the scene. And we're going to say LookAt, but we're going to have multiple subjects. And in this case, we're going to target like different components on this little space contraption. So here we are. We're going to open it up and say, let's target, and I don't remember the bone name. So let's go in and check out what are the bones on this thing? We're targeting the camera on the camera targeting the camera. So we type in the bone name, which is camera 03 for this thing. Turn off use component bounds. Component bounds will target the whole entire object, the bounding box of the object, but we want to target sub things like bones. And you can see sometimes where you want it looking isn't exactly lined up with where the bone is, just due to the way it's weighted or rigged. So we're going to change the bounding radius, which is a box, a cube that we draw around the bone. You can make that different sizes. And we're going to use the offset here. We're just going to position this so it's exactly where we want the camera to be. Now, we're not changing the bone, of course. We're just changing the camera's, the way it's looking at that bone. So now as we move the camera around, we're doing a pretty terrible composition right down the middle, but you can see we're tracking that. There's a little bit of weight, a bit of damping. Let's kind of fix this floor. Okay. So now we're going to look at another subject. We're adding another one. Select the object. We're changing the weight, and we're going to go 100% weight to this new thing. We're going to go dynamic FOV and just turn that up. So it's going to dynamically zoom. We'll just go start with 80. And we're going to target this new bone here. So we're just changing the weight. So that's the weight for 100% on the head. I can look to focus this off a little bit. See that? Sometimes the bone isn't exactly where the geometry is. Let me get to that in a second. So we're just adjusting the composition, get that cube in the right spot. Sometimes this can fix the focus because we're obviously moving the bounding box on the bone that the camera's targeting. But in this, I'm just going to tweak the focus. And that's just to account for the discrepancy of a bone often being inside the geometry and the geometry a bit more forward. Okay, so that's nice. So now we're going to target this new bone. What are we targeting? Let's pick something else. Front right wheel. FR_W. Okay, so you just go to this target to FR_W. Turn off the bound, so we're targeting the whole thing. Get rid of the weight from the head. Now we're targeting the wheel. And you can mix and match these weights. Look at that, in seconds or minutes or however long we've been, we're now targeting multiple subcomponents on this vehicle. And you can, through blueprints, change these weights, or what I'm going to show you right here is we're going to change the weights in sequencer. So let's just pull the camera down. Don't forget the debug is here. That's turning on and off all the black eye debug. Or you can do it through here. Black eye, show camera names, black eye. Just type in black eye in the CVAR in the command window and you get all our stuff. And you can see that the screen, the white box that the camera's looking at will adjust based on your weight. Okay, so let's pick one more just because it's fun to have more things. What's something else cool in here? This little sampler arm, robo arm. Let's punch that in. Okay, so now we got another thing to look at. Boink. And again, the focus is going to be a bit off. See how the cube's a little bit out? Let's make that the right size. Because bones don't have volume, right? They're just a point in space. So what the bounding radius and the offset is, it's letting you give the bone a bit of volume so the camera will compose it appropriately. So by setting the bounding radius and nudging that offset, you can get the camera always look at to frame how big the bone thing is. That was not one of my better sentences. To dynamically frame whatever part of the geometry that the bone represents. Okay. So we're going to put the clip in, drop it into the camera cuts track. We're going to add a LookAt channel because obviously this is a LookAt thing. And we're going to look at the weighting. So I'm just going to add subject 1. There's a weight. And obviously we got more subjects, so we're going to add all the other subjects. 1, 2, 3, weight. Okay, and look at this. Just send them a 0. So obviously subject 1 is the camera. And I'm going to change the weights and drop some different keyframes in. And you'll see that on Sequencer by Keyframing Weights, you can create some fun different camera motions. This is not just good for space vehicles. Obviously, it's, you know, people, if you, or, you know, if you want to like target a head, then a hand, subcomponents on any other kind of vehicle, anything at all. So we have play. Here we go. We're going between all the different things. Ah, that's crazy. That is a powerful way of setting up cameras to look at different things on an object very quickly. Okay, let's clean these keyframes up because we didn't really hold for very long. So I'm just going to make another set that holds. So we'll like go to a spot, hold it for a second, go to another spot, hold it for a second. Okay, this is a better sequence. Like, look at that weight too. We spent so long getting that weight. That's not a straight lerp, by the way. This is not a straightforward blend. There's some mojo to that. And what we're going to do this time here, we've gone to screen space position. We've added that as a track. Now we're fixing the compositions. So look at this. We're looking through the lens and we're fixing the composition of each shot for each of the different bones. So I'm just, what's a good composition? We'll do this over here. There we go. That's a composition. And now for each of the different targets, we've got the camera composing the way we want. That's a knockout punch. And you've got keyframing weights, and then you're doing keyframed composition. So each of the things that you're looking at gets the ideal composition for what each one is. It's a really cool setup. Okay, let's get the whole thing in the frame, fix the composition for everybody. Turn that all off. Okay, look at this. Head, feet, wheels, arm, all composed. Okay, so let's do something crazy. Let's move this whole, let's put some keyframes on this space buggy and let's move it. The cameras will break, right? No, they're fine. You've told the cameras that those are the shots that they want, and they're still going to get it even if this thing's moving. And this is part of the power of LookAt. And now, very simply, we're going to say, let's just put 2 keyframes on the camera position. So we're keyframing the camera's position, but we're doing procedural lookats on a thing that's moving. And you can change the speeds of anything, still going to work. Keyframing weights plus keyframing composition. Things can change. The camera still got it. The black eye cross camera. You know, we see a world where maybe the dialogue is synthetic. You don't know how long a scene's going to last. You don't know what they're going to say. You need a camera system that can handle like a variable length dialogue session. So here we got these 2 guys. We're going to drop a camera in. We're going to drop the cross camera in. We're going to click perpendicular follow 2 subjects, the one on the left and the one on the right. So let's subject left character, dink, subject right character. The camera moves over to the side. And let's target the root. Roots are often more stable for camera position than any other bone. Okay, so we're going to lift the camera up on the camera height. And here we go. The camera is, but it's not looking at them. It's pointing at them, but it's not looking at them. You can look at multiple subjects, but for this, we're just going to look at one character. Okay, we're going to type in the head bone. And turn off use actor bound so we're not framing their entire character. So this camera is relative to both people, but we're just looking at the head of the one. And if I adjust the heading, you can see the camera will swing around. You can adjust the height, adjust the heading. Now let's fine tune this shot. Let's put a more telephoto lens on. You can adjust the composition here, or we can just go dynamic FOV just at the start to get this blocked in, or leave it. I mean, dynamic FOV is fun, but if you want to fix lens, you can use those too. And we're going to increase the bounding radius of the head. That's the size of the cube that's around the head. If you're not seeing anything, remember to turn on the debug. Black eye show camera 1, debug 1. Okay, so we're going to grab the camera and we're going to bring it down onto the camera cut track. So when we select it, we see the debug. We're looking at the head. I'm just going to change the radius to be about head shaped. so we're going to adjust the height a little bit, the heading. We're now getting an over the shoulder here. So this first camera is going to be an over the shoulder. This is where we adjust the composition. You pick the LookAt, and the subject screen position is looking through the lens. Let's put a little bit of location damping, and that's how the camera will follow the character. This is all pretty good. Not bad setup. That's the left camera. So let's duplicate that, and we'll call that the right. And we're basically doing the exact same thing, but we're going to flip it. It's going to be an over the shoulder for the other person. So we'll put that on to the timeline, cut to it, although it's the same because it's the same camera so far. But if we pick the other character, the LookAt, and then now change the follow heading to be the opposite of what the first one was, and then adjust the screen space LookAt, we've got a really quick, dirty over the shoulder for the second character. Okay, so we get them on the timeline here. Cut, cut, cut. And the focus is a little bit out. And this is because the bone isn't often at the surface of the geometry, it's inside, which is why we have on the LookAt that focus distance offset. It lets you just cheat the focus forward or back, usually forward. We'll do the same here. Pick the LookAt, focus distance offset, just nudge that to be about right. Okay. So here's the crazy thing. You can select these two cameras and look, there's our two shots. They're having their little jibber jabber. But then you can move them around. Let's look at the cameras move. They're going to maintain that over the shoulder relationship, even if they're in different positions. So if you grab these characters and just think in a game, you've got a dialogue scene and you don't know where it's happening. Maybe they're moving, maybe they're walking, maybe one person's standing on a bit of a hill. These cameras, now that you've told them to be relative to the two people and to look at the person, player one or player two's head, you've now got a dialogue camera system where the cameras will adapt to changes in the positions of the players. So I can move these guys around. You can see that damping. That's why there's a little bit of lag. That's the weight of the camera. That's why when you move, there's just that little bit of weight and the camera's falling behind. It makes it feel like a real camera operator, fluid head, some kind of like weighty camera move, which always feels nice. You can grab these people and move them anywhere. Let's try this scene down here. They're on the dance floor. Is that carpet on the dance floor? That's weird. And no matter what angle these guys are at, the cameras figure it out, right? This is so powerful. You set this system up once, and then whatever the characters do, the cameras figure it out. A little bit more fine tuning here. Let's just get that angle just right. Okay. And then once that's set up, all of that stuff's relative to the characters, and you can start looking around. Where else in this location? Let's put them by the bar. Just set this up. Move them over. Oh, where are they? They're in the bar. Standing up by the bar. Move them over. And look, your edit still works. Bing, bing. That blue background looks kind of fun. Very powerful for dynamic scenes where you don't know what they're doing. Let's add a master. So we're going to do the city cam as well. We're going to call this the master. And like before, character one on the left, character two, subject one, subject two. We'll track their roots. Let's lift the camera up. And let's look at both of them. We happen to be aiming in that direction, but we're not actually looking at them yet until you click LookAt. Click LookAt 2. Turn off the bounding boxes. Target their heads. And we're going to turn on dynamic FOV because I'm going to show you something interesting here. Let's adjust that composition. So now we're not just doing the over the shoulders. We've got a dynamic master. Let's just put that in here. Left, master, right. There was a little bit of FOV pumping on that. You'll see what I mean in a second. This is the FOV. If they move, the FOV damping will dampen the zoom based on their movement. But look at this. There's the master shot. If I move in, the camera's going to zoom. If I move out, the camera's going to zoom. It's always going to have that composition on them. And this is where it's wild. You can select one of the characters. Look at that. There's our master, nice and clean. And go back to my other viewport window. Select that character and let's move them closer together. Watch what the master does. Still frames them. Super far apart, we'll still frame them. So if you've got a cutscene and you've got different size characters, or the animation doesn't always put them in the same spot, you get where I'm going. The cameras will figure it out. I say that a lot with black eye stuff because that was the whole point. In real life, the camera's looking through the lens, figuring it out. But in CG, it doesn't until black eye. This is what we built this stuff for, to handle variable scenarios and still get great shots when you don't really know what's happening or there's variability to what's happening. So now we got all three cameras moving. You can see this little rig. Look at them. All the cams just following that around. And you can imagine, like, you know, you've got submasters, extra close up over the shoulders. You can set up these entire rigs to your heart's content. Many cameras as you want. I think I've made my point now, but let's just move them upstairs. Let's put it by this table. These chairs out of the way. Kind of nice light right here. Yeah, these are, oh, this is your dialogue system, so you can experiment. Let's try moving the master up. It all still works. The black eye cross camera. It's a powerful dialogue camera system. This is one of my favorite modules, and it's so easy to use. The black eye camera switcher. Easily switch between your army of cameras, which are dynamically following and framing and composing whatever's happening. Incredibly powerful for mocap, live events, esports. Okay, here's how to do it. This is our scene. Oh, these guys look like they just came back from the open pasta bar at lunch. And we got a rando singer. Perfect. So drag the camera switcher actor into your project, to your level. And then you can see here under cameras, we've got this array that you generate. So you pick a button, you pick a camera. You can even click that keyboard button and then actually just tap the keyboard and you bind them. So these are some cameras that I've already gotten the scene set up, but let's make another one. So I'm just going to drop a black eye camera in the scene. We'll make it look at the character. Adjust the positioning a little bit. Let's make this one look at the head. So hit the look at, type in the head bone, turn off the actor bound. So it's looking now just at the head bone. And, you know, we can put it wherever we want. Adjust the composition. Sure. Fix that. Just, there we go. Okay, let's duplicate this and we're going to make another camera. And this one, let's make this one follow and look at the whole person. So we're going to do a dynamic FOV and we're going to adjust the screen size. So the camera will automatically FOV to keep the character this size on the screen. And then we're going to follow it. So when you click follow and you kick the character, we just do an offset at 300, but you can just grab the camera and move it. And that's going to maintain the camera subject relationship. A little bit of damping in there. Let's check it out. Where we go. Okay, this camera's following the character. I'm doing some procedural aiming, composition. Let's check this head camera. Not too bad. Okay, great. We got some stuff here. Let's go. So let's add those two cameras to the camera switcher. Save it. Hit play. Wait, what's happening? Oh, yeah, of course, you've got the clip on your timeline that's going to override it. Make sure you don't have a clip on your camera cuts track. Here we go. So look at this. You're switching You can switch between cameras which are set up for character 1, character 3, just headshots, framing everybody. And if you want to have the camera print out what it is, do a little texturing, you can just type it in here, just add that component. This is a super fast way of switching cameras. It's a camera switcher. A keyframing composition. If you're a layout artist in games or CG, this is the juice right here, because this is such a powerful combination of procedural cameras, which we don't want to take your talent away from you, but we're allowing, Black Eye is letting you drive the composition like a camera operator. So you can see when you look at something, Black Eye will always look at it no matter where the camera is or what the subject does. But this is not great composition because the composition is right in the middle of the screen. So let's move the camera. Let's move the composition. We're looking through the lens and we want it on the right side of the screen. So you can see now the camera, all the rotations, all the buttery math to keep the car on the right side of the screen. But I want to change the composition over the course of the shot. And this is just so powerful. What you do is you add a LookAt channel and then you add your screen space position. And then just open that up and set a keyframe for how you were looking through the lens, what the composition you want. Keyframe those. And then go to some other position in your shot and adjust your composition and keyframe those. So now, no matter what that thing does, we're starting on the right. Let's get these guys out of the way. You're in the way, you guys. So now the car starts on the right. And then not great in the middle, and then it moves to the left. This is such a powerful way of working because you're just like a camera operator. What's the composition for each shot? What's the composition for each, section of the shot? Let's fix this middle. So we're going to go put the car in the middle. Let's look down. That's it. Single keyframe. Now the camera drops. Car is well composed in the middle. Away it goes. And it's going to do this if the car changes speed. The car's in a different point in the world. I don't like how it comes down right away. Let's go to the curve. See that? We're dropping right away. So let's do this thing. Come here. We're just going to hold it up higher a little longer. Which one are you? There, so watch this. We're just holding that shot a little longer. Or you just do this, move it over. We're going to hold it, and then now we're going to drop it. So we're adjusting the curves on the composition. X, Y. And you start working where you're looking through the lens, just like in real life. But the camera knows, and the camera's going to give you that composition, even if the thing changes. And it's fast. This is, even if things aren't changing in your scene, just the ability to block in shots like this without having a keyframe, all of the rotations, get the pivot points right, get the mass right. We're going to do this little thing where the car goes by and then we just want to tip up and wipe it off the screen. Keyframing composition, it allows you to work so fast. Baking cameras down. You want keys on every frame. We get it. Lots of reasons why. Let's pick it up a little bit near the end of this video. Okay, so you got a crazy shot. Look at this thing. Body cam. Let's bake it down. So you create a cine camera actor. Let's rename it. Clear names are great. Good habits. So you drag it down into sequencer and then you pick the Black Eye camera you want to bake. You go to linked cameras. You punch the camera in, the actor that you want to bake it down to. You hit record. That's it. Baking down it goes. And look at this. Look at all those juicy keyframes. Keyframes on everything. There you go. Bake it down. DCC round trip. You want to Nuji it. We understand. There it is. Boom. Thank you for watching. We're here for you. Join our Discord. Reach out to us. Let's talk about shots. Let's build some really cool stuff. Thanks.